All right, here we are. Everybody had a good week? Anybody have a horrible week? Anybody have something that is really appropriate? Let's talk about this because the roof is falling in. Nobody?
I will say something because Reagan is not with us today.
I was going to ask.
Yeah, she's kind of had a little bit of a rough time. Her grandmother passed away yesterday, and she was supposed to go to Arizona tomorrow with Jamie, and that got canceled because the reason Jamie was going was a graduation that got pushed back. So not only did her grandma pass away, but she wasn't going to get to go back to Arizona to see her APG group. We call it the group. It's her friends.
Right.
Anyway, she flew out yesterday morning to go to hang with her friends, and she's in the best place in the whole world. So I just wanted to say that her group is her home. That's her home base, and it always will be. And so that's where she's at right now. Tell
her that I'm aware of her attempting to get a job somewhere, and I was singing her praises. Okay?
Oh, thank you.
I mean, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. But I just happened to run into her somewhere. Yeah, as a matter of fact. Yep.
Okay.
Her happened to run into her tracks somewhere, and I told them how cool it was and the special information that she had because of her HPG background. So yeah, we'll see.
Yeah. Great, thank you.
All right, let's introduce ourselves real quick. Elaine, you want to start? Since you're muted, I thought I'd pick on you. No, I just did not. Tell who you are and who you work with, what you do, a little bit, real quick.
Oh, I have to do what now?
Tell who you are, what you do, and who you work with, real quick.
Okay, my name is Elaine, and I work for Life Giving Life, the Recovery Project with Jamie.
I'm
sorry. Janelle and Sandra. We're all here.
It's kind of like a tic-tac-toe thing. I got on my screen, y'all are like 3 in a row, and then the 4th, down there. All right, Alex.
I'm Alex. I live at home with my mom in the basement. I'm unemployed. I drive her car. Did I cover everything now?
Thank you, Alex.
You're welcome.
Alex is basically what's the word when you listen in on something? Alex is working on a project.
I'm working on a project, so I'm just sitting in. I'm just gonna observe and just kind of hang out and see what pearls I can get out of these meetings.
How we do this and those kind of things. There's some other things we could do this way that Alex is investigating and would be good for a lot of people. It makes it really easy for folks to tag in and do stuff.
Yeah, so I just kind of wanted to start something where apparently the COVID's got everybody on Zoom, and it seems like there's more AA meetings and it's easier to join this way. So I just wanted to just kind of feel it out and see how these meetings go and how many people actually come on board. So.
Michelle, go ahead and introduce yourself. Try to say as little as possible about it. Okay, as little, just kind of do what you have to do. I know you have to say something, but.
Michelle Aquavella, James and I are creating the Seattle APG.
Yeah, in Seattle. Yay! Whoopee! All right, Janelle.
I'm Janelle Martin. I just got my LCDCI, and I work both with LGL and Matthews Hope Foundation, both in recovery. So I work with parents mostly since I'm a parent of an addicted child.
All right. Mike?
Hey guys, I'm Mike Wilkerson. I'm with University of Texas here in Houston School of Public Health. And I'm doing research with APG partners. So you guys will hopefully be hearing a lot from me in the future. And I'll be sitting in with these meetings every week because I'm interested in understanding the questions that you're asking and how you're starting up your group.
Okay. And Jessica?
I am Jessica. I work for LGL. I am in the process right now of finishing up my semester which is next week. And then I will be applying with the state for my LCDCI. So we are starting up an APG program and stuff like that. So initially that's what I wanted to do, but it has taken a little bit longer to get the program started. So I've just kind of been, doing what I can, where I can in the meantime. So yeah, we're just kind of trucking along.
Have you taken the test yet?
No, not yet. The semester, like I said, is over next week. So once I get all of my documentation paperwork from my professor, as well as the official transcript from the school, then I'll kind of get the ball rolling on finding out.
It's so much fun. The test is just a blast.
Yeah, I've heard.
Yeah,
I've heard. So we'll see how it goes.
And who are you? Jamie, Jamie, what?
I am not a fan of that test, by the way.
Nobody is.
So I have Life Giving Life, the recovery project. We are starting up an APG, hopefully wanting to launch it on June 1st. Right now, we're just wanting to get the steering committee going and up and running and just the right way. We didn't want to throw anything together, so we want to make sure that we're doing this the right way, getting the right people and processes and policies and procedures in place. So we are moving full steam ahead and everything's going really great. These trainings are fantastic, extremely helpful. So
Right.
We're just trying to get everything in a row.
All right. Rochelle, if you are okay with me recording this and posting it on YouTube, you need to give me a thumbs up. There you go. Okay. Now introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Rochelle. My lighting is sort of funny here this morning, but that's my typical day. But yes, I'm a member of Life Giving Life, and just like Jamie said, I'm here, to learn about how the program works so we could run it efficiently and be effective at what we do. And
Great.
I'm an LCDCI, and I'm working on my bachelor's in social work.
All right. Have you taken the test yet?
Not yet.
It's a lot of fun. Sandra. Sandra? Oh, you're frozen.
It's a cardboard cutout just to make it look like she's there. I used to do that.
We know.
There's
Sandra, you're up.
Hi, everybody. My name is Sandra Bird. I am a recovery coach, also recovery facilitator, and I am part of Jamie's team. I'm working with early education.
John, you're talking, but you're muted.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. You probably prefer that. You might want to just everybody nod and let me just go on, and you can do whatever you want. I have not sent this out at large yet to everybody in the association. It is coming, and so we've gotten to be kind of a group, and I kind of like it, and so I haven't really pushed it out there too hard. I'm going to, though, on the wider email list out there. We don't know. I haven't checked yet to see how many people are watching the recordings yet. Also, I'm sure there's several anyway. I've heard a couple of comments here and there about them. Last week when we finished, we've talked about steering committees, we've talked about family groups, and this week when I put it out there, and last week I asked you, think of a problem you're having and bring it back with you, and we kind of construct today around that. Also, a lot of times when you're addressing problems, it brings up structural and progressive, progressions you need to get into. So that's why I went ahead and titled it that. Who has a problem they'd like to start us off with? All right.
Yeah, we've bumped up against a problem. So I've been volunteering with our recovery high school since October and providing my services free of charge. And we got this parent group started. And we've been doing the parent group now for 2.5 months, 2 months. And we got the steering committee started, and we had our first steering committee for the family meeting, the first steering committee meeting yesterday. And one of them said she had watched Generation Found and then started researching costs of like Archway Recovery School. And so she brought up the fact that the APG will cost money, and sounded a bit anxious about that. And so we're realizing that we've provided something for free that then we're going to go back and ask money for. So we are, our block is, how do we start talking about that fact now so parents aren't surprised when, oh, starting 2 months from now, you're going to have to pay $250 a month for what you were getting for free.
Okay.
So that's.
I'll tell you a technique that I've seen done, and that is, depending on the size, how big is your parent group right now?
It's not very large right now. We get like 8 to 9 families per meeting.
All right. I have seen this technique work on that kind of situation, that they achieve something called charter status, and you don't ask them for any money. Or here's another one, you give them charter status, make them the charter group, that gives them a little esteem, and say, you can pay whatever you want or nothing, and just leave it to them. And that's the way it's going to be from now to the end of the time for you.
Okay. That's easy. Yeah, because we've been using our core group of the recovery school parents to kind of get it off the ground and, get all the kinks worked out. And then the idea is we'll hit what feels like a significant date, like when school starts back up, for example, and open it up to all families, not just recovery school families. So that makes a lot of sense. And it kind of rewards them for helping us get it.
Keeps them coming and all that kind of, yeah. And some of them will be, no, I want to help, and they'll sign up for whatever. And some of them won't be, and they can't, for one reason or another, which gets us into, again, like I said, problems are a good jumping off point for progress and progression. What you might ultimately move to is a sliding scale, and that is a self-determined sliding scale with a top end and a bottom end, whatever you think is appropriate. And you can do 2 kinds of sliding scales. You can do a sliding scale that this is what you pay, this is what you owe, and this is what you pay, period. The person says, I can pay $50 a month. That's all I can pay for anything and everything. You go, okay. The other one is, here are the charges. This is your monthly payment that you're quoting. But the balance will build, okay? You will never be asked to pay more than that. And if you can have to pay less, you just let us know. That's another approach, right? There are other approaches. There have been programs that have actually quoted amounts, and no, there's not a sliding scale at all. This is it. This is what it costs. There are other programs that have run completely and totally on donations, and fundraising activities and things like that. I've seen all of them be very successful. It is not, what I have seen not work is not think about, hey, we're going to have some money, and do something around that. You have to plan, and you have to set up some things in that direction. Okay?
Yeah, well, in my mind, it's not sustainable to be run on volunteer hours. Like, I can only volunteer for so long before I have an income.
I have seen it happen. I know that the volunteers in Santa Clarita's program, it's almost all volunteer, and it has worked really well. I have never run a program that's all volunteer. I have to have some people that I can depend on and expect and do some things. When I say all volunteer for Santa Clarita, there are some people that are paid. I don't remember exactly how Steve has structured that. We ought to have Steve come on sometime and talk about how they're structured. That's another thing we're going to be doing. It's not going to be all me, by the way. Are y'all aware of the conference, the virtual conference that's coming up? The
Yes.
APG? Please register, please. It looks like it's going to be awesome. I was sitting in the organizational meeting. Some of the stuff they're playing is pretty goofy. Should be fun. And lots and lots of good information that'll be shared at the thing. Not to mention a chance to really rub shoulders, not noses. Don't rub noses, but rub shoulders with a bunch of people there too. Okay. Next does that help with that problem a little bit?
Very helpful,
Thank
John.
you.
Thank you.
Next
Hey,
problem.
John, I have a quick question with the cost and all of that. Are we like, do you normally see that people incorporate the cost of like the outings and the hangouts, like if we're going somewhere? Is that normally incorporated, or is that separate? And how much is that normally on average for the?
Yeah. Again, it varies. Okay. At one point, Lifeway had a profit-making organization that was taking care of all the clinical things and all of that. There was a nonprofit organization that ran alongside. When you do that, you have to be very sure that your directors of your nonprofit, they can't get any money. And the guy, and there can't be any tie over in leadership between the two organizations either, all right? Between the profit making and the nonprofit. But the nonprofit organization wanted to support activities, all right? And so they would set up certain activities that they would cover everything. They would go out and raise funds and get donations and grants and cover everything for everybody that wanted to go. When we took those 75 kids down to Copper Canyon in Mexico to dig water wells for the Tarahumaras during the big Mexican drought back in whatever it was, that was basically paid for by the nonprofit element. All of those kids were ranging everywhere. There were a few who were in IOP at the time and actually paying for it, or insurance was paying for it in the clinical element that was profit making. And all the way to some were getting ready to what we call awaken or discharge from the meetings and the alternative peer group. It's a wide variety. We had one girl on that trip that her first day in sobriety was getting on the bus as her dad dropped her off. She got on the bus as we drove to Mexico. You know, it was interesting, and I still know them, you know, to this day. It was an interesting story. So there's a lot of different ways to do it. Does that kind of give you some ideas? You know, reason why I don't say there's any one way is because over the years, different approaches have been better to use than other approaches, depending on what's going on in the community, what is available, who's walked in the door of the program. It's really letting, I'm a God guy, so every once in a while I'll say the God thing. Letting God deliver some things to it, and then thinking about how do I move towards even what seems to be bad things. If you want to be a great APG leader, you're going to be great at taking lemons and making lemonade. I promise you. You get that down and you will be a great APG leader.
John, that answers, yeah, sorry to jump in. That answers one of my questions as well about how and why you'd run the profit and a nonprofit. And what you're saying, it sounds like it's like the PTA for the APG. Like what they do here is they'll fund certain special projects. Maybe they could sponsor a kid, you know. So is that kind of what you're talking about?
Yeah. The other times I have seen where there was not a nonprofit at all. And the profit making paid for everything for everybody was in it. The organization did. And then I have seen where there was no profit making and the nonprofit paid for everything. And then I've seen all of the above where the families paid for the trip.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we have so many tech companies here in Seattle, and so many of them will match or even triple donations. So parents, it's just such a great way to,
Yeah.
if we can do it, get it set up to get additional funds.
The thing to do is just make sure that it is dead honest and ethical. And what that's all about is the board cannot ever get any kind of the nonprofit cannot get any kind of compensation of any kind, you know, to them. And between the nonprofit and the profit making, there can't be some, you know, slough of money going back and forth.
Right. Got it.
Be very careful of that. Okay.
So one more question. Sorry,
Sure.
guys.
That's the way it's set up. That's why I wanted to do this today. These are relevant things today to you guys.
And I'm glad we're talking about this because I actually have two set up. I have a for-profit called the Recovery Project, and that's for a project. That's all already it's already done, the paperwork. And then we have Life Giving Life, which is nonprofit. So would we run APG? Is one better to run through than the other, or no? Okay.
No. One, well, let me change that. Yes.
Yes? Okay.
Depending on what's going on at the time.
Okay. Now, John, these depending answers.
That really is it. It depends on the environment at the time and what resources are available. But that particular question on where to run the APG elements, and you're talking, when you say APG, you mean the groups and meetings and the social functions. Is that right?
Yeah.
It really, they have both been run by the profit making. And it's all been run by the profit making. And it really just depends on, again, what's available at the time, what kind of talents come your way. If you got great nonprofit board talent that walks in the door, you know, it's a good thing. But I can't, you know, it just depends on what's there. I'm sorry, but
Okay.
Sorry,
No, it's good. I'm
that is
fortunate
another
enough
depends on the answer. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm fortunate enough where the people that are at LGL, they are volunteers and they're amazing. So I'm very blessed in that I have a very dependable staff that their heart's in it. I just didn't know if there was a benefit to running things through as far as the back office, the for-profit or nonprofit.
The thing, again, you got to watch out for is running a nonprofit that's going to make money for the profit making.
Okay.
You have to be careful with that. Yeah, how that works out. But if it is truly services directly to the families, there's not much to worry about. Right? If you're going to do a referral contract between them, it better be really solid, you know, where that goes on. The thing I got to tell you about your nonprofit, if you do it right, one, if you're working for them, they can fire you. Two, if you're working for the profit making, they can decide, oh, no, we're all going to become Hare Krishna based program. We're not going to use y'all anymore. You know, not putting down Hare Krishna. I'm just saying it can happen.
Right.
That,
okay.
One of the reasons we at times have leaned heavier on having more under the profit making was to avoid that possibility.
Okay.
Because it can happen.
That's helpful. Okay.
Somebody was telling me a story. Actually, somebody was telling me a real big horror story about one of the programs someplace. I won't get into specifics, but a deal that went down. Janelle, you've had your hand up back.
I know. I'm sorry. No, it's okay. I just was gonna just tell you from experience, our experience, because my daughter got sober in an APG, and it's a for-profit. Pathway is for-profit, but every function was the kids had to pay for outside of the cost of treatment and OP and all of the meetings and stuff. So. And I don't know of any parents that really had a problem with that. They kept the cost usually between $10 and $50 a function. The bigger functions, the more elaborate ones would be a little bit more expensive, but anything they would have in-house would be about $10, and that went for pizza because they'd feed the kids and drinks, you know, so that they could eat and drink while they were there. They weren't making money on functions, but we also had parents that would help other kids if they couldn't afford it. Some of the parents were actually offering to pay for some of the kids to be able to participate in the functions. And in our group, the functions were absolutely mandatory. You could not participate. So there were ways to get around that, but I know Josh has said many times he always wants families to have a little bit of skin in the game when it comes to these groups. The more, if they have skin in the game, they take it more seriously, they attend more regularly, and they really get into it better than if it's just free and it's not, doesn't cost them anything. They can show up or not, kind of thing. So
yeah, the barometer on that, historically, another little side thing here, the barometer on that, when they actually have some skin in the game, is how hard it is to make sure that they do attend all the things that are happening. When they have some skin in the game, they're more apt to attend. You don't have to work as hard to get them to attend all the social functions and things like that.
Yep. Yep.
Other questions? Anything, you know, on this particular issue? Anything? Anybody sitting on a question right now? Okay. All right. Janelle, did you bring a problem?
I don't have any problems. I mean, because I know how they work. I mean, I've lived it for 2 years, so I know that there are problems that could come up. But we haven't started ours here at LGL yet. We're just preparing for that, and there's a lot to do. Reagan is doing a lot because she is the only one in our group with experience in actual being in an APG. She's kind of who we're leaning on, and that's where she's at right now. So I don't really have a specific problem.
Okay. All right.
I have a question for Janelle.
There we go.
Yeah.
Janelle, what's Reagan doing? We would love to get our teens involved, getting this set up and laying the foundation. What kind of activities, or what is Reagan doing?
Well, we're not doing anything yet, but she, her experience with an APG is, I mean, it's all over the place because are you talking about fun stuff? Are you talking about meetings? Do you have a specific question about what she's doing?
Or how do you see a teen who has had experience in the recovery world being able to help set up an APG?
Oh, okay. Are you talking about somebody who has not been in one prior?
No, I wouldn't say that. Just the experience of a teen in recovery. How can they help contribute?
Well, I think the more kids you have in the age group, or around the age of the kind of kids you're wanting to get in your group, the better, because they're going to relate to those who are coming into your group much better than an adult. We're looked at as parents. They don't really want to buy anything we're selling. They want to buy it from somebody that's been there just like them, that's around their age. That is really, really important to have. Mm-hmm. So they can talk to them on a level that we just cannot ever get to as parents. We just can't. So it's vital really to have. That's why these steering committees are so important. You are getting leaders that are just like them, that they can look up to, and that they will actually talk to and listen to and give credence to. It's different than a parent coming in trying to fill that role. So
Let me step in here for a second. Michelle, can you specify kind of what you're facing?
Sure. We've got some really active kids at the recovery school who are very enthusiastic about recovery, some of them with 18 months plus. And they're looked at as leaders already within their community of sober teens. And I would love to harness the power of that to help rope the kids in and get them excited about
specific suggestion, because those are, those are your beginning steering committee. All right.
Right.
Specifically, bring them together, name them, start we've talked about creating ritual, start creating some rituals with them, have a meeting, and then have them start bringing some other people. All
Okay.
those things we talked about with steering committee, go ahead and begin the process with them. And everything
Oh, yeah.
goes from there.
And
They're
I
going to
feel
be
like,
great.
oh, go ahead, Janelle.
I said they're going to be great at growing your group because they're of the age you need to do that. They're going to be able to talk to lots of people and talk to them in a way that's going to make your group sound like the coolest thing on earth, because it is. So,
Right.
It is.
yeah.
One
You're
thing
gonna say,
that
Jen?
Reagan's been doing a lot. I mean, she's been, I don't want to say actually, because it's like, actually, but no, she's been doing, there's actually, but there's, when we think about it and take a step back, there's a lot that actually is being done. So one of the things that Reagan is doing is, in our center, we have a back room, which is like a group room. And to make it fun and more youthful and just, I don't know, great atmosphere, she is actually painting our walls. So she's painting our walls with a symbol for each type of recovery. She has the prayer hands for celebrate. She has a like a head with the brain for smart. She has the refuge recovery symbols. She has the AA. So that is all being done. She's literally painting that on the wall, along with stenciling the 12 steps and the promises. So those are some things that she's doing as far as aesthetically speaking with the room and trying to pull in that like younger vibe, some things that she's doing. And I really feel like getting to your point, to piggyback off you, Janelle, so at the center, we have the counselors and we have the recovery coaches, right? For Reagan, and like what John was saying, I've kind of tasked her with, go find people. You know, go find people in your age group. I trust Reagan. She has a good head on her shoulders, and she's actually no like BS either. So I know that she's not going to put up with you know, potential people that are coming onto the APG working that, you know, if they no show or things like that, she's not going to put up with any of that. But I also know she has a really good intuition with people and bringing that on. And I really feel like one of my concerns, John, was like staff splitting with a younger group of people that are running APG. I don't know. This is just my thought process on this. Is it more apt to have issues with staff splitting with a younger crowd, well, not crowd, but a younger lead, if you will, like with the APG? I'm not sure about that. So that was one of my questions too. But I do feel like having the young ones running the APG or overseeing that, it's going to give us as counselors, when we do one-on-ones, some really good insight on how to handle certain cases, because the young kids will open up to the ones like Reagan. So, but yeah, that was just kind of one of the things.
That's a great question. So that gets into the structure. When I did the title, you know, and I said problems in progress, or whatever it was, structure is what I meant. But the structure answers a lot of the problems, and the problems dictate the structure. And what you just hit on leads directly into structure. You do want a hierarchy of authority. You do want that. This is not a group consciousness. This is a treatment organization. This is not AA or NA or CA. This is, yes, there is a person, you know, that's a director, and then they're usually, gosh, in Houston, PDAP in 1979, there was an executive director. There were 7 people in the office. There were 5 area directors just for Houston. There were 23 centers, and each area director had 4 or 5 centers under them. Each center had 2 staff members. There was a senior counselor and a counselor, and then those were the APG centers. If they were doing clinical, there was also maybe an LMSW and LP. In those days, there were LMSWs and LPCs. There weren't any LCDCs at that time. So all the counseling had to be done, that kind of counseling had to be done by an LMSW and LPC or something like that. The lines of authority were drawn, and the lines of authority were very important because it avoided some of the problems you're talking about. The answer to the question of does splitting occur? The answer to that is absolutely yes. That is going to happen. I don't care if you have young people running it. I don't care if you have old people running it. It is going to occur. It's not an issue of age. It is an issue of humanity. Humanity has problems, and then we do that kind of thing. You may have heard we had staff organizational meetings. They were called purposes in the past, and they were really times to get together and solve problems and try and avoid splitting as much as possible. Even they can become a problem. It is about the personalities of the people who are, running the program. You just have to be constantly adjusting, on guard, all sorts of things. It's one of the issues, and it comes from just, there's no way to avoid some of it, but having a clear line of authority will avoid some of the splitting, because you're going to definitely have differences of opinions. You're going to have a counselor that's going to go, they're not willing, they need to be told they have to leave, You're going to have a therapist that's going, wait a minute, I'm getting great stuff right now. They're just not, they're at some point in the process. Then you're going to have working with the family going, no way, What has to happen there is somebody outside of those three has to make the decision, and the three have to be willing to go with it.
Maybe it's decisions.
James.
What is staff splitting? We're kind of like,
I have no idea what you're talking about.
What I just described, you will have a situation, well, between Recovery High School, and you're going to have a teacher who hates, not even doesn't hate them. You're going to have a teacher who is absolutely sure that the very best thing to do for a young person is kick them out. Okay? You're going to have a facilitator, a program facilitator that is very, very much against that. And somebody's got to make the decision, and both of them have to abide with it. That's naturally occurring splitting around issues. Then, because this disease is cunning, baffling, and powerful, you have that thing that rises up in the people we work with that loves to play one staff member off against another staff member and knows exactly how to do that. Not consciously, instinctually knows how to do it. You have to avoid that also, so there's all that kind of thing that goes on. But having clear lines of authority are very important. But you better make sure at the top of that line of authority that you got talent-based hiring. If you have a credential up there that doesn't have any talent and doesn't understand this model, they will blow your program to pieces.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay. Jamie, did that kind of answer what you were asking about?
Yeah, it did.
Okay.
It did.
Right.
And that is, I'll tell you from personal experience, that's what our last year I have learned many of lesson from the staff splitting and finding a good team. And yes, John, it can make or break. And I'll tell you, I'm so lucky right now to have such an amazing team, but it took almost a damn year to get there. So I will 100% back on that. Okay, I promise this is my last question.
You got it. It's all right. It's all right.
I mean, I don't promise, but we'll pretend. So, one thing that I'm curious to get your thoughts on is when we're up and running, and we do, because I'm sure we will come across parents that are those helicopter parents that have not maybe been educated enough yet, where they're coming in and they're like, I want my kid drug tested. I want my kid drug tested. I want every single week. what are your thoughts on that?
Let me start off with drug testing in general. Okay. Drug testing can be very helpful to the person who's trying to stay sober, knowing that they're going to have a UA once a week or once every other week. And this is not my opinion. We have research on that, that those folks who know they're going to have one, it's one more thing for them to think about before they decide to get high, you know, and sometimes that'll get them through that moment or, you know, that hour. And then 2 hours later they go, man, I'm glad I didn't do that, you know, that kind of thing. The other side of it is what the problems that it creates that you're just talking about, you know, that those parents that start grabbing hold of that, because again, cunning, baffling, and powerful. I'm going to figure out a way with my, what was it? My Whizzinator. Y'all know what a Whizzinator is? Anybody know what a Whizzinator is? You can buy a fake wiener, a fake penis, and load it up with urine and beat the test. Okay. And it's called a Whizzinator. And so those people will get that. And then they'll say, I passed the test, you know, and parents are like, and counselors are like, oh, well, I don't know why you were doing what you were doing. So it's a double-edged sword. The parents, though, the specific question you asked about was the parents, you know, what to do with them. Those of us who have not been parents, all right, our younger facilitators will have a lot more problem with those parents than those of us who have been parents, okay? We are real quick. Your young non-parent counselors and facilitators will get very frustrated with helicopter parents. But they'll give the young person years to get their shit together, pardon the French. You know what I mean? Yeah, of course it's taking time. You know, they've got all sorts of patience with the kids if it's an adolescent program. But those families, those parents just make me crazy. Why can't they just chill out and leave them alone? You know, that kind of thing. But the facts are that the codependents in the case are going to take time too. Different amounts, different times. One of the things that you always have issues with is when you have parents who are using themselves, but they haven't gone to jail and they are making money. You know, I'm making money. Yes, this is my 5th marriage, you know, and all my kids won't speak to me, but I'm making money, you know, that kind of thing. That is a big issue. That and what you do is it takes, or at least what I do, and there's probably better ideas than this, and I mean that, but typically what I do is try and work at the points that God makes available at the time. If the young person is willing, move them ahead, and as they move ahead, it sets me up to better address that helicopter parent. As they move ahead, I'm back with, you know, and I just go back and forth between whatever is making itself available at the time. I know it's not a good solid answer, but it's process. We're here to work with family just as much as the young people, because if you don't, you're back to 25% success rate.
John, I'd like to add that, you know, in our family support group at night, last week when we talked about, or 2 weeks ago, we talked about consequences in our group, and one of the parents came back the week later and talked about how they realized that natural occurring consequences for them was like freeing, you know what I mean? Learning that, allowing the kid to have those natural, you know, so I think the family group is a real good point, you know, is a good part of the APG structure, because it's that moment for the parents to like hear about natural occurring consequences and help those helicopter parents to kind of back off.
You know, I brought this and I was showing it to somebody a little earlier. This, I don't know if y'all can see how thick this is. I was showing it to Elaine. This comes from, oh gosh, this is 25 years ago. This is a curriculum. all of these pages are activities, special meetings, all sorts of things, you know, that were done in Lifeway 25 years ago. So there's lots and lots of stuff to do out there. But I just, as you were talking, I thought we need to add something to this. And that is, Jamie, what if you had a parent meeting one night and it was entitled Helicopter Parenting and the Disease?
I mean, personally, I would absolutely love it.
That might open up some people to start thinking,
Yeah.
you know, taking a look, and especially if they're running on, you got to talk about yourself, you know, it might throw down a little subject, a little topic into it.
Mm-hmm. I would love that. Yeah.
Maybe. Okay. Jessica, do you have a question? Do you have a problem? I mean, we know you got a problem. No.
No, I'm still kind of waiting for Jamie, Jamie's lead, I'm waiting. Tell me
I'm
what
so
to
sorry.
do and I'll do it.
I
So
know.
that's kind of where I'm at. I'm just trying to learn as much as I can and, wait for instructions.
Great. Rachel? You didn't know that you were supposed to bring a problem, but you may have a problem that you've thought of since you've been here.
Well, no, not really, because everything been pretty much clear, straight to the point and explained greatly. I just can't wait to see how everything is going to come together, because like it was said earlier, Reagan is wonderful, and just seeing all the talents that she has to bring to the program, I'm just waiting to see what takes place. And like Jessica, I'm waiting to be told, hey, can you do this? And oh yes, there I go.
All right. Well, if you think of something, don't hesitate to jump in.
Right. Okay,
Sandra, that brings us down to you, kiddo.
Well, I'm so happy we're learning a lot. Thank you so much. The time to listen to you is a great experience for me. I'm learning a lot. I'm so in love with this program, and I'm ready for the action. So we'll see what we can bring next time.
Great. Anybody, because I have something that we can move to in a minute if we need to. Gotcha. Janelle.
You know, I'm always going to talk, and I'm sorry, but
We're muting you right now. No.
I know. You can like plan your next meeting and not tell me about it if you want.
And let Janelle just talk.
So I have a question for you about drug testing, because in our experience with the APG my daughter was at, they did not drug test anybody ever. And it was up to the group to know what the members were doing, and they self-policed and because it's a positive peer pressure group is what it is. So they never drug tested. So I understand the benefits of drug testing you just said. That makes perfect sense to me. But what is your stance on drug testing in an APG?
Yeah, it isn't an either or. You can do both. It does not spoil the positive peer pressure and everything. It depends. When we have done it, it was easy to do. It was inexpensive, and why not? That kind of thing. Because we were doing the same thing on the positive, accountability, group accountability, and all of that. We were doing all of that, pushing all of that. Lifeway is not doing it right now, and because we have enough of that accountability going on that we don't need to. But I have seen scenarios where it was helpful, so it got down to why not? It's not an either or. They're not mutually exclusive, not at all. We have done it where that positive accountability existed in huge amounts, but also, the drug testing. We've also done it to where it was in the early days to give a little edge to people who are, again, what it's really all about is giving a little edge to put together one more day of not doing brain damage with my disease and avoiding a relapse point. There's an average, just my opinion, not research. There's an average of about 6 during that 18 months to 4 years, about 6 relapse points that comes along. If you can avoid them, that's great. And if this allows you to avoid them, that's good. You know, we've avoided one. If they do relapse, you want it to be as short-lived as possible because you want to take on as little brain damage and return to as little stinking thinking as possible. So again, if it shortens that thing, that's a plus. But there are a lot of factors that play into it, but they're not mutually exclusive. One of the things you got to watch out for is you can start taking pride in how we do it. All right. And unfortunately, that has bit us in the butt in the past at times, and we've avoided some things that could have helped because that's just not the way we did it. You know, those kind of things. Asking questions and looking at stuff like that is a real good idea. One of the reasons we did the association was actually to address some of those kinds of things because we've learned a lot. You know, you asked me that question. Actually, we've done both. And in between, you know, so picking what is appropriate for LGL right now, you might as well have the benefit of the experience, but it does need to match the culture, the treatment culture that you're working with at the time. Is that
good? It helps a lot because I guess I just wanted to make sure there would be no drawbacks to doing that because I do find it appropriate at times.
Mm-hmm.
I just wouldn't want it to be a detriment to the program.
Yeah, it's not. If you do it, you know, again, you know, we've talked about setting up rituals, and this is the way people get used to almost anything. Do y'all remember what it was like at the beginning of the pandemic? Now, hey, yeah, we're having a meeting. You know, and unfortunately, getting used to it is good, but getting used to it also makes it sometimes become sacred, and nothing is sacred. Until we hit 100%, until 10 out of 10 are getting well, we're doing something wrong and not doing something right. That is an exact. So nothing is sacred in this. Other questions?
Thank you.
Sure. That's my opinion. Other questions? All right. We've come to the end of another fun day. I hope y'all have had fun. I always have fun. Be ready. There's going to be some other people that I'm going to ask to come and do some things as time goes on. Please bring whoever you think could help. I love questions. I love questions. Next week, I want to talk about funding. Is that okay with you guys? And let's see. And again, try and bring a problem specifically around funding. Let's see if we can hit directly at something and get some extra help to some extra people going. Okay. I love you guys. I'll see you later, alligator.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, John.
Thanks, John. Bye.
Thank you. Take the hat off, Alex. Take the hat off. Time to take it off.
Never. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.